Help support Friendo Club by going to patreon.com/Steven Larson or clicking join at youtube.com/Steven Larson. Access to bonus episodes, question threads for the Going In Raw podcast, and entry to our monthly wrestling predictions challenges. Join the Friendo Club today. Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
Welcome back to Friendo Club Wrestling Hot Takes, where your takes are read and we respond to them. Maybe we'll mock some. Maybe we'll agree with some. Maybe we'll disagree with some in a civilized manner, Larson.
Who knows?
Who knows?
We won't know until we get into it. We could start right here with this one from Kelmiko.
Kelmiko.
It says hot take.
Hot take.
Even though it's early, this is Kelmiko, not Larson, pretty convinced that Mercedes' run has shown that some people are better off underneath the WWE umbrella. She feels like a guest star instead of an active competitor no matter what she does.
So this is a take that I've seen in a bunch of places, and like there's a part of me that's just like, you know what, give it time and maybe that will be proven wrong. Maybe 6 months from now, after she's had a number of matches in her resume in AEW, maybe there will be a different perception, and I think that there's a possibility of that. I do think now that, for my money, I don't think the rollout of Mercedes Moné has been like a particularly effective one in AEW. And I think it's she was a perfect fit for WWE. I did enjoy the matches that I saw of hers, and there were very few of them, out when she left WWE, like the New Japan stuff. But it's sort of like the jury's kind of still out on it, but what I've seen up till now, there is sort of a disconnect between what she brought to the equation in WWE and what AEW has done with her so far. Hasn't been a huge sample size, but week to week is all we have to base this off of. So I don't know.
Given that she is seemingly not cleared to compete yet, it's been a bummer that her AEW work so far hasn't necessarily played to her strength as what she can do in the ring.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about her wrestling, because she is an exceptional wrestler. Yeah. But also I think her character work during her matches in the ring is also very good.
Yeah.
As we've seen in her, not just WWE, but her work in New Japan and Stardom. And that's such a huge part of what she does, that to not be able to do that for the most part. And I don't know exactly the reasoning behind it, but so much of her presentation in terms of what she's done from her promos and interviews has been very kind of sports entertainment. It's been very WWE in terms of the presentation. They feel very scripted, which is so I don't, if she was doing the same exact thing in WWE, I don't know if it would stick out so much, even though WWE's presentation has changed so much since Triple H took over. But it's a really stark contrast compared to everything else in AEW. And if circumstances were different, or maybe even in hindsight, Tony Khan been like, all right, let's not rush to bring her back before she's ready to get in the ring. Because I think that's what people really want. In AEW, people really want wrestling. They watch AEW to watch the in-ring product more than anything else.
Yeah.
And the story they're telling with Mercedes and Willow, it's based on backstory. It's got history to it, and I'm really excited to see the match. But unfortunately, the way they have to build it, because Mercedes can't wrestle yet, just feels a little flat.
What's funny is that I think of the person who got whipped by Bianca's braid at WrestleMania. I think of that Sasha Banks. Yeah. And I see somebody who was completely and totally comfortable in her own skin in front of whatever it was.
Yeah.
40, 50, 60,000 people. I forget what year it was, if they had half capacity.
I think it was the half capacity.
Okay, fine.
So 35, 40,000.
Shit ton of people.
Yeah.
Under pressure, main event night one, putting over, doing the job for the future of the company. And how she absolutely owned that moment.
Yep.
And looked so in control of the situation. And I see now they have her doing angles where she's in the middle of an interview, which, as you say, is very. But I mean, it's like WWE bad. You know, it's like the situations they have her in. It's like, you know, let's do this sit down interview where she's delivering weird lines that just sound completely like, I don't know, undercooked and overwritten.
Mm-hmm.
And they sound like lines from a promotional video.
Yeah.
And it's like you're supposed to be like a genuine human being right now.
Yeah.
And just the situation, and then the lights go down and she's sitting on the ground. Like that's not taking advantage of what she brings to the table.
No.
And so, yeah, I think a big part of it has to do with they brought her in 3 months or 2 months before she could even wrestle, seemingly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and on top of that, without much actual direction for her, like the story's kind of muddied. Like she showed up mid-story with Willow and Julia Hart, and Statlander's there too, and Sky Blue. And so it's just sort of, instead of adding intrigue to it, it just sort of muddied it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't, honestly, here's my thing to address the actual take. It's easy to say maybe she's just a better fit for WWE, but when I look at her even pre-AEW, in between WWE and that, I thought she came off as a star in doing the New Japan stuff.
Yeah.
And so I don't know it's necessarily, she should be in WWE. Maybe it's just a bad AEW fit.
It could be.
Based off how they produce things.
Or it could be just a bad fit based on just because she can't wrestle yet.
Where she is, yeah.
You know, who knows? You know, it is still early. There's only been a handful of appearances. I don't think we can really accurately judge how her run in AEW has gone so far until she gets in the ring.
I think we can't accurately judge how her AEW run will end up being.
Yeah.
But so far, we can because of what we've seen. You know, and it's not strong. But again, hey, come, what day is Double or Nothing? The 4th
May 27th.
Oh, 27th.
So
okay.
another month.
So let's say May 28th. We'll know.
Yeah.
We'll know. Elemental Giant here with a hot take says Eddie Kingston has been booked terrible since the C2, and it makes the tournament less important because of it. I disagree with that last part. Because I think once the tournament happens again, like I still have fond memories of the tournament.
The tournament was good. It was really good.
Once we get back to the tournament, I'll be like, I'm excited now for the Continental Classic. That's going to be a lot of fun.
It is.
It makes Eddie less important because of his booking since then.
Yeah.
He's sort of been chumped out of all of his titles.
Yeah. Well, 2 of the 3. Yeah.
2 I always forget about the Strong title.
You do.
I watch Strong, man.
I don't even know if they have a show right now.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about Strong.
I don't think they have a show right now.
So if there's no show, is there a title?
Yeah, it definitely seemed like around the Continental Classic, the booking with Eddie took a pivot, and not just the booking, like how he approached his work in the ring.
Dude, you know what's weird is that the Eddie Kingston from Impact, when I was watching, that like ran over a child in his car and had like a sack of quarters, was pretty much the Eddie Kingston that came over to AEW.
Yeah,
but since the C2, he's just been like all Japan fan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a bit much. It's like, are you a wrestling? It's good that you're a fan of wrestling. I appreciate that. But that's his entire gimmick now.
It's that, and also before he deliver really impassioned promos about stuff, and now you put a microphone in front of him, he's like, what is this? I got 10 things to prepare for. I got Reese's pie to eat and catering. Why are you here bugging me about a promo?
Yeah, what is this light you got right here? Why do you need a light? Why is there a camera? What kind of lens is this? Is this a zoom lens?
Like, he just seems like he can't stand the obligation of promoting his matches.
You're on a television show, Eddie.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just part of the television show.
It is. Tired bonus dad here says Chris Jericho never knew when to walk away and reinvent himself. Name redacted would always have him go away and come back with something new. I don't know. I mean, the perception I always got is could be, myth making by Chris Jericho is that he usually it seemed to be instigated by a Fozzy tour.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
That he would walk away and he'd do the tour. There was another instance, I can't remember exactly which run, where he just felt like he had kind of worn out his welcome with the audience and it was time to go.
Yeah. I don't think this had much to do with Vince.
I think if Vince had his way, he would have kept Chris Jericho around all the time.
Yeah, the evidence behind Vince is like to a wrestler is, don't go away.
Yeah.
Always be around, always be ready. I need you, pal.
Yeah.
How long has it been? 2 weeks? Okay, come back. That was the CM Punk line
Yeah,
anyways. So no, I don't know. I kind of feel like I read like at least one of his books, and no, it always kind of felt like Jericho would leave, and then when he'd ever come back, he would endeavor to reinvent himself. And so, yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like the evidence is against this particular hot take. Luis Reza says FTR / The Revival. Say yeah. Had better matches in NXT than in AEW, and the Revival versus DIY rivalry is better than FTR versus the Young Bucks. So that last part, DIY Revival is better than FTR Young Bucks. That debate could be had maybe. Nobody could ever tell me that FTR Briscoes is that anything's ever better than that.
Yeah.
In terms of FTR / Revival.
Yeah.
That feud and those matches were fucking outstanding.
Off the chart.
They really were. But I don't know. I kind of feel like I'd have to go back and revisit these matches.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like Young Bucks FTR probably be number 2 on my list to the Briscoes FTR.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
But look, they're always good. They're always really, really outstanding wrestlers.
And the Revival DIY stuff was really good.
It was, absolutely.
We got a couple similar hot takes here. One from the Green Pianist and the other one from, what is this?
Yeah.
Ben Stigmeyer.
Okay.
So Green Pianist says, most comparative discourse about wrestling is pointless. People who hold certain opinion most likely won't change them, and trying to explain why is pointless because it's mostly all subjective. All it does is fuel their negativity further. We just had 2 excellent pay-per-views in April, and people are still bitching.
Okay.
Let's go to Ben saying WWE and AEW are 2 different genres of pro wrestling.
Okay.
They are both there to cater to different audiences and shouldn't be compared in most aspects.
So we have one person saying you shouldn't do comparative discourse, and then we have another person who's doing comparative discourse.
Well, saying because they're so different, you shouldn't compare them.
Okay.
It's an apples and oranges thing.
Oh, okay. So like essentially Ben here is saying it's like saying an action movie, comparing an action movie, stacking up an action movie against like, a prestige film, or a romantic comedy. Or
they
something
appeal
like
to different
that.
audiences. Some perhaps don't compare them when determining quality.
So 2 things. Number 1, I don't think that I disagree with this. I think that even the concept of, okay, I had this in the comments for probably our star ratings that said anybody who likes, if you liked the Night 2 WrestleMania main event better than, if you enjoyed it more than
Ospreay
Danielson, just admit that you don't like pro wrestling and you only like sports entertainment.
They're the same thing.
They're the same fucking thing,
The same
right?
thing.
Like, it's the same thing. You do wrestling matches, you do promos, you do interviews, you do backstage segments. It's just one company approaches the ratio, the ingredients. They cook up a bit different formula. They've got a bit different, preparation instructions there
Yeah.
than the other one.
Yeah.
It's the same thing,
Yeah.
though.
Just slightly different.
Just slightly different.
Yeah.
One has more of an emphasis on longer matches, on more, physical matches, I guess. The other has more of an emphasis on story beats and characters and how those personalities clash. Not to say that AEW doesn't do that. They just approach it in a different way. They emphasize something different than this one over here. I don't really think it's apples and oranges. The problem is with this whole, the discourse is pointless. Toxic discourse is pointless. Disingenuous discourse is pointless. And there's a lot of that. There are probably plenty of genuine, honest comparisons that could be made between the 2 companies in a way that doesn't run down what everybody is doing. It's just there's so much toxic noise that the signal has such a hard time getting through. And so it makes it difficult. I wouldn't say pointless because I don't think that it's apples and oranges. I think it's, Granny Smith and Fuji,
Yeah. I will say this. I don't necessarily think they're different genres, but I do think WB and AEW's product does cater to, not to say there's not a crossover, to different audiences. There's a section of pro wrestling fans who watch pro wrestling for the wrestling.
Yeah, we've seen that. Absolutely.
And there's a section of pro wrestling fans who watch pro wrestling for the character, predominantly, not exclusively, predominantly, for the stories and the characters. In that Venn diagram, there is a substantial crossover. But, if AEW has decided at this juncture, seemingly they did, for the most part, with the Continental Classic, we're going to be the pro wrestling company. We're the best wrestle.
We're the best wrestle.
So we're going to focus predominantly on the in-ring product. WWE established their formula 40 years ago, where in some instances, in some shows, pro wrestling just seems like a bit of a side quest. The actual wrestling aspect of it to the stories being told and the characters being showcased. It's both sports entertainment is just corporate speak for pro wrestling to make it more marketable.
That's exactly what it is.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
There's not a massive difference between it. You can take as you said, the ingredients and mix them differently. The end result is the same. When you get down to it, even WWE, with so much emphasis on character and story, still settles their stories. They still reach a conclusion in a match.
Right.
So, yes, there's differences, and yes, I think each brand caters to a different audience. But when you come down to it, these stories all culminate with people in choreographed fights.
Yeah. Let's see here. Carlos says, if you spam finishers and kick out of them in WWE, it's called the Lesnar match, 3-star L Riz. If you spam finishers and kick out of them in AEW, it's called an instant classic 5-star W Riz. Either protect your finishers or change them.
So has there been an instance where we've seen a 12 to 15 minute sprint match of just finisher after finisher after finisher in AEW? Because I can't recall one of those happening. Not to say no one's kicked out of finishers. They have, but if you're talking about WrestleMania 34 level, where it took, 5 spears to beat Roman Reigns or something like that, it was just literally finisher after finisher after finisher. I don't recall that match ever happening in AEW.
I agree, and I think this is kind of some of the disingenuous discourse. And I don't view this as toxic because it's not being rude about it.
No.
But I kind of feel like it's disingenuous. I don't think you get that kind of stuff. I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't mind one instance of it in AEW because one instance would be kind of shocking and kind of different and kind of new.
Yeah.
It's just Vince would do that all the time. That's why it
time.
became a Lesnar match, because that's what you could expect from this one guy.
Yep.
And it was usually in the main event of whatever was happening.
Yep.
But no, I kind of feel like it's instant 5-star classic. Let's look at the instant 5-star classics. Danielson versus Ospreay just happened. It was 31 minutes. 31 minutes is
32. It was 32:40.
32 minutes and 40 seconds. Did they spam finishers in that?
No, Danielson hit one knee plus that Ospreay kicked out of. Maybe Danielson kicked out of a hidden blade. It was at the end of the match, though. Or towards the end of the match.
They ran the gamut in that match of all sorts of different shit. I don't think that this is the kind of discourse that dude before is talking about. Mm-hmm. This kind of discourse is pointless.
Yeah.
So, yeah, do better, people. Do better.
Sir Sketch here says a match that is all story angle is better than a match that is technical classic with no story. That's subjective. I mean, your people are welcome to feel that way, but there's a lot of people out there that get invested in the story being told in the match itself. Because even though there may not be any sort of grand drama leading to a match, there's a story being told in the match, whether there's build up to it or not. It could be as simple as Wrestler 1 is working this body part, Wrestler 2 has to overcome that to win. Or because Wrestler 1 was working this body part, it leads to him winning down the line. It's simple, but that's at its core the storytelling of pro wrestling.
Okay, so here's where I would agree with this, sir, because he does specify a technical... Here's the thing. This is what do you call a thing where it's like you're saying a thing but you're contradicting itself?
It's called a contradiction.
There you go. Sir Sketch says a technical classic with no story. A technical classic by definition has a story to it.
Yeah.
It is a story being told in the ring. That's why it's a classic. That's why people are invested in it.
Yeah.
I cannot think of a technical classic that didn't have a story to it.
Yeah.
If it's just two dudes doing move, and they're not executing a story, targeting limbs, trying to, work the psychology aspect of things. That's the story.
Yes.
So I don't think a technical classic can exist
Without story, yeah.
Without story.
I think the idea is that there's a story of consequence leading into the match.
Now, yeah, again, if the story of consequence is like just a killer story, and they're able to, a match that is all story angle is better than a match that's I don't know. If it's like, okay, if the idea is it's can you give me an example of a match that's all story angle?
Well, like most of the Bloodline stuff, that's all story, predominantly story. Let's say the wrestling's bad. It's not, but the drama and weight to those matches is because the overarching Bloodline story, not so much the story being told within the match, because the story being told within the match a lot of times is pretty formulaic. You get a half-hour long match, Bloodline interference, Roman wins.
Yeah.
It's pretty copy and paste in that regard.
Yeah.
But because there's so much drama going on with the interpersonal workings of the Bloodline, that's where the drama comes from. Or you look at Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Or Danielson versus Ospreay. The match is basically, I'm the greatest.
Yeah, I'm better than you.
Which one of us is the best?
Yeah.
And then you watch the match and you have people, in the case of Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr., it is straight up technical wrestling, working body parts, trying to gain an advantage over your opponent to prove that point. That's the story.
Let's take these two examples. What you just mentioned, Danielson Ospreay.
Yeah.
Right? You counter that with Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns at
Elimination Chamber.
Right?
Yeah.
Which one do you prefer? You know what I mean? Like, and that's just for them.
Yeah, it's a subjective thing.
It's like if the story, because we're talking about the pinnacles of two types of things, right?
Yeah.
Like the very, very simple, let's just get these two guys in the ring with the barest, the thinnest of like stories, right? Like plot devices leading into it.
Yeah.
If they tell an absolutely killer story in the ring versus something with just a massive amount of intrigue and plot twists and turns, and they tell a killer story in the ring.
I mean, you're getting a killer story regardless.
I'll
bring up this. Bryan Danielson versus Ricky Starks, that strap match. That match was made like what? At most a week before.
No build whatsoever.
No build. Yeah. No real story going into it. And because it was, from a technical standpoint, executed to near perfection, it made you feel it was like the blow off to a blood feud.
Yeah.
But they told a story during the course of the match that got you that invested.
Yeah.
Even though there's basically no story leading into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's like you get greatness and you get greatness.
Yep.
And it's like I don't think one is greater than the other.
No.
It's just it's up to you. I probably did end up preferring Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns.
Well, you just said you think you prefer the main event night 2 to WrestleMania to Ospreay.
I just like that shit. That's me.
Yeah.
That's Steve. I'm not putting that on anybody else.
Yeah.
But I love Danielson Ospreay. I thought it was an awesome match.
It was really good.
Up Slingshot. We'll end on this one because it's a shout out to my dude Cody Rhodes. Throw your ones up for Cody Rhodes.
That's not how it works.
Come on, throw your ones up, baby.
Cody's
might not be able to do it very much longer.
Well, I mean, if you keep acting like this, we'll throw the ones up for Cody. We ain't gonna do it much longer because I ain't gonna participate in that. You only throw the ones up for your tribal chief.
Throw your thrones up.
No, not for Cody though.
You'll appreciate this one. Up Slingshot says the Crossroads has got to be the weakest finisher in WWE right now. As far as I'm concerned, Cody's actual finisher is 3 Crossroads.
I don't disagree with that.
That is totally true. But kind of similar to that, at least in New Japan. Okada's finish was like 3 Rainmakers over the course of 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's all good. What's Roman's finish? Like 5 spears, 3 Superman punches?
And the guillotine.
And a guillotine. Anyways, that's going to do it for Hot Takes. Thanks, everybody. Keep an eye out for our community thread. Hit subscribe, hit the notify bell, and then you'll get notified when a community thread goes up so you can get your hot takes right here on the show.
Yep.
See you guys around.
Bye.